And remember, no matter what you see coming in from Israel and the Gaza Strip, it is the 240 plus hostages that continues to guide everything that's playing out on both sides. 240 hostages who were taken captive by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th and who continue to be inside the Gaza Strip. I'm going to get you a big reveal on a possible breakthrough that could be ahead. I'm Shiv. Thank you for being with me. These are the headlines. The odd-even traffic scheme is scrapped in the national capital. Supreme Court comes down angrily on the Aam Aadmi Party government, asks Delhi and Punjab to come up with solutions to stop farm fires immediately. India and the United States hold their 5th edition of the 2+2 ministerial dialogue in Delhi, enhancing engagement in the Indo-Pacific and boosting cooperation in defense are the big items that are discussed between the foreign and defense ministers of both sides. Telangana Congress Chief Revanth Reddy files his nomination from Kamareddy seat. Reddy will take on incumbent Chief Minister KCR in the BRS bastion. The Art Chief Minister in the line of fire once again claims it was stupidity to make HAM President Jitan Ram Manji the Chief Minister back in 2014. Trinamool MP Mahua Maitra faces expulsion from Parliament. Ethics panel report to be sent to Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla next. Over 200 families, over 240 hostages, all of them captured and taken into the Gaza Strip by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th. I've been reporting from Israel where I met with families and friends of some of these hostages. That, in fact, is the wall of the kidnapped in Tel Aviv, where the pictures of all of those 240 plus hostages is worshipped practically by civil society in Israel every single day. The truth of the matter is it's been 34 days now since those hostages were taken from kibbutzes and elsewhere and into the Gaza Strip. Among those 240 hostages, there are at least 20 to 30 children, some of them even infants and toddlers. Imagine being in captivity by a terrorist organization for 34 days and counting. The fact is that 4 hostages have been released so far for various reasons by Hamas. 1 hostage was rescued. It was a young soldier of the Israeli Defense Forces, but the fate of all of the other hostages remains completely uncertain. How do we know for sure that all of them are still alive? How do we know that some of them may not have been killed, as the Hamas is suggesting, in the Israeli airstrikes and ground operations? Whatever you see and whatever the uncertainty that continues to shroud what's happening in the Gaza Strip, the truth of the matter is over 240 hostages are in some capacity inside the Gaza Strip. And remember, these aren't just Israeli nationals, but belong to nationals of several other countries as well. As we continue to report on what's happening there, as the war enters day 35, Israel has now agreed, very interestingly, to put in place a 4-hour humanitarian pause in its assault on the Hamas in northern Gaza every single day. Think of it as a mini ceasefire for only 4 hours every single day so civilians can be moved out. The White House has confirmed this, but the really interesting fact is hundreds of miles away from Israel in Qatar, a very important negotiation is taking place between the Qatar government, which is in touch with Hamas, which actually accommodates the Hamas leadership on its territory, and a senior team of the Mossad, the widely renowned external intelligence agency and counter-terror agency of Israel. Could there be a breakthrough on the cards? Is there a deal between Israel and Hamas brokered by Qatar that could soon spell freedom for those 240 plus hostages? Take a look at this report.
after more than a month of relentless bombing and attacks, some relief for Palestinian civilians. Israel will pause the war for 4 hours in northern Gaza every day to help people move to safer locations in the south. The small window of relief was agreed upon after mediation by Qatar. The chiefs of CIA and Mossad met with Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahmani Al Thani in Doha on Thursday. They discussed the parameters for a hostage release deal and a pause in Hamas-Israel fighting in the Gaza Strip. Qatar, where several Hamas political leaders are based, has been leading talks for the release of more than 240 hostages. The Qatar mediators had met Hamas officials on Wednesday night. After the meetings, the White House said that Israel has agreed to halt its assault daily for 4 hours to enable Palestinians to flee hostilities. Israel is also opening a second corridor for civilians to flee the areas that are the current focus of its military campaign against Hamas. The pauses emerged for discussions between US and Israeli officials in recent days, including talks President Joe Biden had with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Did you ask him to pause for 3 days to get the hostages out for that?
Yes. I've asked for even a longer pause for some of them.
Meanwhile, Gaza sees no respite from the Israeli airstrikes. On Friday, Israeli strikes hit locations near several hospitals as the military pushed deeper into dense urban neighborhoods. Even as these airstrikes force civilians to flee towards the south of the besieged territory, world awaits Israeli initiatives to bring relief to Palestinians. Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to get a perspective in from someone who's in the thick of things. Joshua Hantman is a political and strategic communications advisor who is also now an advisor to the families of some of those hostages. Joshua, welcome. Thank you for your time. This is an unfolding situation. I was in Israel for a couple of weeks. I've just returned to India now. I was reporting on what was happening there. I met with several of those families who you likely represent as well, who you're advising. Joshua, we've been hearing a mix of things coming in over the last 24 hours. There's information now about a 4-hour pause by the Israeli Defense Forces in northern Gaza every single day. And this could be connected to some kind of a possible deal that is being brokered in Qatar. Anything you can share with us? I understand these are very sensitive things that are in motion. Whatever you can share with us, Joshua.
So first of all, please do allow me to apologize because as luck would have it, as soon as the interview started, we were forced to go into the bomb shelter. So I actually have my 4-year-old and my 1-year-old and my wife behind me here as the air raid sirens were wailing about 2 minutes ago. So I apologize.
No need to apologize, Joshua. I completely understand that. Please stay safe. Yes.
Thank you. And also allow me to wish you and all of the viewers ahead of Sunday a happy Diwali, because even in the darkest of times, we believe that with friends like India and the United States, light will overcome and will prevail over darkness. So
and happy Diwali to you as well, Josh. Thank you. Yes.
Regarding your questions, look, we experienced on the 7th of October the greatest massacre of Jews since World War II, since the Holocaust. And we had crazed Islamists, Islamic jihadis who broke into our neighborhoods, who broke into our communities, and they carried out the most horrific actions. And we are now fighting not only to destroy the Hamas infrastructure, but, and again, I apologize about the noise, but to get these hostages home. They took children from their beds. They have 240 hostages currently kidnapped. And I understand that there is sort of a double parallel track. You have the diplomatic track, which you discussed in your piece earlier, and obviously the military track. And our forces are going in a very measured and precise manner to not only dismantle the terror infrastructure, but also to release those hostages.
Joshua, how are the families doing, if I can ask? We do see them sometimes. 34 days is an agonizing amount of time to live in total uncertainty about your loved ones. You have first-hand contact with them. How are they doing? Tell us that.
So I'm working with them day in, day out, and I can tell you all the families are responding differently. But just imagine for 34 days going to bed without kissing your children good night, waking up in the morning without kissing your children good morning. Some of the children have their parents in hostage, their grandparents in hostage. It's absolutely horrific. And the whole of the people of Israel, and indeed I see our friends around the world are with us, the people of India, the people of the United States, majorities in the UK and across Europe are standing with Israel as we do everything to get these hostages home.
Is there reason to believe, Joshua, and I sincerely pray this is not the case, that some or many of those hostages may no longer be alive? Is it possible? Because no proof has come in from the Hamas's side. They've made some stray comments saying the airstrikes have, possibly killed some of those hostages. Any information at all of this kind?
So unfortunately, even before the airstrike started, we don't have the full picture of exactly who was taken into Gaza, who was taken alive. Some bodies, believe it or not, 5 weeks later are still being identified. The atrocities that were carried out were to such an extent that some of the bodies are completely unrecognizable. So we're working around the clock, and the authorities are working around the clock with the intelligence services to not only identify exactly who is there, but to try and understand who is alive and unfortunately who isn't.
Final question to you, Joshua, is about the negotiations that some news agencies have been reporting about some kind of a deal that could be being brokered in Qatar. Obviously there's never going to be any kind of official word on these because these are extremely sensitive. They're shape-shifting, things change. But Qatar is understood to be some kind of a broker. They are known to, of course, be the place where the senior leadership of the Hamas has lived for a very long time, practically like a safe haven. The Mossad and the CIA have also gotten involved, we understand, through delegations. Anything that you can share with us about this? Because through the last 34 days, we've heard about prisoner exchanges, we've heard about, American nationals being released, and, permutations and combinations of all kinds, but there is no clarity. Is there a deal of some kind on the table?
So the families are hoping and praying and pressuring for a deal as soon as possible, some sort of deal. No one knows what that exact deal will look like. But we will fight this war as if there is no diplomacy, and we will continue the diplomacy as if there is no war. We must do everything to bring these family members home, back to their loved ones, and we will continue to work every single track, both civil society and the government, in order to get these hostages back to their families.
Are they hopeful? You say that all families respond differently, Joshua, but are they hopeful that 34 days later, that they will see their loved ones sooner rather than later?
So the air raid sirens are finished now, so my family can leave the bomb shelter and we can have some peace and quiet in here. The families are all responding differently. I believe there is an amazing strength that they are receiving from the resilience of the people of Israel. Everyone is united behind the families, and indeed behind the army that's going into the most difficult and dangerous situations to try and free those hostages. And I believe, like I said at the beginning, with Diwali around the corner, lightness will prevail over the dark. And I think we will be seeing some of these hostages home, and I pray we will very soon.
Joshua, we wish you, your family, a very happy Diwali, and we wish the same, light over dark, for all of the families of those hostages and any innocents who are affected in this terrible cycle of violence that we're seeing play out. I request you to stay with me for just a moment longer, Joshua, because we're continuing to report, updates that are coming in from the war zone, from what's happening, on the front as well. Defense forces, we now hear, say troops of the 7th Armored Brigade have raided a Hamas outpost and training camp in the northern Gaza Strip over the past day, seizing dozens of weapons and killing some 30 terror operatives. The IDF says troops captured assault rifles, missiles, mortars, drones, maps, communication equipment and other technological equipment from the site. It says the troops also raided the offices of Muhammad Sinwar, the brother of Hamas Gaza chief Yahya Sinwar, capturing weapons and other materials. Remember this in the wake of some unconfirmed reports suggesting that Yahya Sinwar, perhaps the most wanted man in Gaza, being cornered in some kind of a tunnel or a bunker, even though there is no confirmation of that. Josh, one of many updates coming in from Gaza at this point of time of a Hamas training camp that has just been raided. But I wanted to, actually ask you about what we've just seen you and your family go through. Another rocket alert, another dash into a bunker. I myself, have lost count of how many times I had to do the same thing when I was there for 2 weeks, recently, earlier this month. But the fact that the rocket alerts are still going off suggests that the Hamas, still has some kind of a latent offensive capability, Josh. Even after 34 days, they still have the capacity to attack.
I think what we need to understand is that Hamas have placed their entire military infrastructure underneath the ground. And this is going to be a long fight. It's not going to finish tomorrow. It's not going to finish next week. We're in for a long fight. And the IDF is going in a very surgical and precise manner, slowly and carefully, taking out not only the terrorist cells themselves, but also the bunkers that house the rockets, the ammunition dumps. And like I said, they're putting their civilians, whilst we go underground to protect our civilians, they put the terrorists underground and put the civilians on top to protect the terrorists. It's completely the opposite. It's a complete double war crime. They fire at our civilians while they hide beneath their own civilians. And this evil must be defeated. And you're right, the rocket sirens are still going. My kids are terrified every time the rockets come flying over. Thank the Lord that we have the Iron Dome system that can actually shoot the missiles and the rockets out of the sky. But we know that we're in this for the long run. This is not going to be a short fight, but we have no choice. We're fighting for our homes and we're fighting for our existence.
Josh, to you and your family, as always, stay safe. Thank you, despite that rocket alert, despite that dash to the bunker, for keeping your time with us and joining us live. Thank you very much, and our good wishes to all of the people of Israel at this point of time. Because remember that India Today is the only channel that reports from both Israel as well as the Gaza Strip, the only Indian channel. We've been reporting on the humanitarian crisis inside the Gaza Strip as well, the deaths of innocent, including children, who continue to die as part of this campaign in the Gaza Strip as well. And you'll see a report about that as well in just a moment. And remember, none of this has anything to do with Hamas terrorists continuing to be hunted and snuffed out by a grieving and galvanized Israel. Hamas is not the Palestinians. As the war continues to rage, Israel is making relentless efforts to bomb and destroy Hamas infrastructure after the IDF exposed a Hamas tunnel network that stretches into hundreds of kilometers. IDF officials operating in Hamas's military quarter in Gaza City have eliminated, or said they've eliminated, 50 Hamas terrorists in just the last 24 hours. Here's a report.
It's the deadliest phase of Israel's Hamas hunt. Israeli defense forces have entered Gaza City on Thursday, fighting fierce battles with Hamas terrorists. Infantry, armor, and engineering units of the IDF are actively involved in clearing the area of terrorist infrastructure. After the Israeli military exposed a network of Hamas tunnels, command centers and rocket launchers beneath and adjacent to hospitals in northern Gaza, IDF soldiers operating in Hamas's military quarter in Gaza City have eliminated 50 terrorists so far. The so-called military quarter adjacent to Shifa Hospital is the heart of Hamas's intelligence and operational activities, and was also used to plan and prepare Hamas operatives for murderous attack on October 7th that killed 1,400 Israelis. The military quarter consists of strategic Hamas terrorist sites, including the Central Intelligence Headquarters and the Aerial Array Headquarters of the terrorist organization, as well as Hamas government offices, including the Ministry of Interior and a police station. In addition, the area contains the largest training facilities in the Gaza Strip for urban warfare, military outposts, warehouses, and various munition factories. Also in the area are commanders' offices, underground tunnel networks, and war rooms from which the Hamas terrorist organization directs the fighting. All the infrastructure is in close proximity to civilian facilities such as schools, kindergarten, medical clinics, and mosques. As the operations in the security quarter gather pace, IDF is targeting and neutralizing terrorist elements within this key Hamas stronghold. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, amidst the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, Delhi has just concluded its 5th edition of the India-US 2+2 dialogue. It's called 2+2 basically because the foreign minister and defense minister of both sides engage in extended discussions to take forward the strategic relationship. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met their US counterparts, Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and held discussions to strengthen the defense and strategic relationship, defense cooperation, the Indo-Pacific situation, among other key issues. Remember, India and the United States are also two parts of the 4-member Quad alliance. In this crucial meeting, India also raised the issue of rising Khalistani elements in Canada and the United States. India has conveyed its serious concerns to the US over viral videos of certain Khalistanis in both the United States and Canada. India has discussed the issue of the Israel-Hamas war, of course, and reiterated its position on a two-state solution, something it shares with the United States. Earlier, stressing that the Indo-Pacific remains one of the key issues despite the current focus on West Asia, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar had said that the two countries are building a forward-looking partnership that only will scale new heights.
This meeting, this visit of yours, I think has a particular significance because we need to follow up on the Prime Minister's June visit and the President's coming here in September. So there's a lot of bilateral stuff we need to do. And 2, of course, this is a 2+2, so we take a broader view of what we're doing. And then, of course, as Quad members, there's the Indo-Pacific that we're focusing on. And finally, we look at global regional issues, and I think what's happening in West Asia, Middle East, to you folks. That, I think, is a very big concern right now. I look forward to discussing those and other matters with you. Once again, a very warm welcome.
The India-US bilateral relationship has seen a growing convergence of strategic interests and enhanced defense, security, and intelligence cooperation. Defense remains one of the most important pillars of our bilateral relationship. Your visit to India is at a time when India and US are closer than ever before. In spite of various emerging geopolitical challenges, we need to keep our focus on the important and long-term issues.
It's always wonderful to be in India. We're building on a rather remarkable year of engagement, and I think it's just evidence of the fact that we have not only the strongest bilateral partnership we've ever had, but also a regional one and indeed a global one. And that was further evidenced by India's leadership of the G20 this year. And as Jai said, we have a lot to do, including with our defense colleagues. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think it's further evidence of our resolute focus from the United States on the Indo-Pacific, our region for the future. And the future is actually now. And we're building it now, and we're building it together with India. So I look very much forward to good conversations. And very good to be back.
In the face of urgent global challenges, it's more important than ever that the world's two largest democracies exchange views, find common goals, and deliver for our people. We've made impressive gains in building our major defense partnership over the past year, and that will help us contribute even more together to the cause of peace and stability. We're integrating our industrial bases, strengthening our interoperability, and sharing cutting-edge technology.